Greetings. Today, let us discover a powerful and beautiful truth, the deep genetic and cultural unity of India. We may speak different languages, follow different religions, and we may celebrate different traditions, and yet we are united by one strong identity. We are all Indians. However, in recent times, political tensions have begun to shape this unity. Some groups are pushing divisive ideologies, creating gaps between majority and minority religions, promoting regional and caste-based politics, stirring up conflicts over language, and now even debating who came first to India, Aryans or Dravidians. These ideas are not rooted in unity, but are often used for political gains. And sadly, they are slowly chipping away at the harmony of our great nation. Our languages are different. We speak Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, Punjabi, Bengali, Malayalam, Marathi, and countless other languages. We have different food habits. Some of us enjoy steaming rice with rasam. Others from different regions, they relish jawar rotis with spicy chutney. Many love the tangy taste of tamarind rice or pihora from Andhra and Telangana. We have different dressing styles. We wear dhotis, lungis, saris, or salwar kameez, and even we celebrate different festivals. At first glance, it may seem like we are many different people, but science tells us something extraordinary. Beneath all these colorful customs, vibrant cultures, our DNA speaks one powerful truth. We are all connected. Imagine a Telugu speaking farmer in Telangana and a Punjabi wheat farmer in Ludhiana. Though they were separated by thousands of kilometers, but they may carry genetic memories from the same ancient ancestors. Their great grandparents, they might have once lived closer than we imagine. They might have drinking from the same rivers, working in the same land, sharing the same dreams. A grandmother in Vijayawada preparing bobbatlu, and another grandmother in Banaras, they are making Purana Poli. They are not just cooking, they are nurturing age-old traditions passed lovingly through generations of Indian mothers. This is not just a poetic thought, it's proven by science. Studies in population genetics, it shows us that over thousands of years, people have moved across this subcontinent, married across regions, they share stories, recipes, and rituals. Aryan or Dravidian, in reality, we are one family shaped by time, migration, shared struggles, and love. And if you look closely in our daily lives, the songs we sing, the spices we use, the festivals we celebrate, and the values we hold dear, we will see the same golden thread of unity woven into our hearts. In Hyderabad, which is the heart of Telangana, here in Hyderabad, it is the city that blends Telugu, Urdu, and many other languages. We can find a Tamil engineer here, a Bengali professor, a Marwadi businessman in Hyderabad, and a Malayali nurse living in the same apartment complex in Hyderabad. We can see people with different backgrounds. Their children play together, speak more than one language. They eat biryani, they eat idli, they celebrate Diwali, they celebrate Eid, and grow up knowing that India is their home in every direction. From the classical Kuchipudi dance of Andhra to the Kathak of the North, from the rhythm of Telugu folk songs to the beats of Punjabi Dol, every sound, every step, it is a part of India's heartbeat. Even our festivals, they carry the same spirit. whether it's a Batkama in Telangana or Navaratri in Gujarat. The soul of celebration is the same: family, gratitude, and life. So, why should we divide ourselves? Why argue about who came first or who is pure? When science says we are all mixed and we are all merged. Our DNA holds no borders. It carries the history of our unity, our shared humanity. We are brothers and sisters shaped by the same earth, the same sun, and the same spirit. Let us stop saying us and them. Let us say we. We are together. Let us raise our children to love Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, and all languages with equal respect. Let us teach them that whether they are from Nellore or Nagpur, Karimnagar or Kolkata, they are part of one powerful Indian family. Because the truth is not just in our minds, it is in our blood. It is in our DNA. It says clearly we are one India, one people, but many different parts with a single heart. So let's dive deep into this. India is one of the most genetically diverse countries in the whole world, second only to Africa. Now, that may sound like a scientific fact, but it is much more than that. It is a story of all of us. It is a story of who we are, and where we come from, and why we should stand united. This incredible diversity is not just about language or culture. It is in our very blood, in the genes we carry, in the stories our ancestors left behind inside us. It means we are not strangers to one another. We are a family. You may ask, why is India so diverse? Imagine families sailing from the islands, bringing their stories, music, and dreams. These were not just travelers, they were mothers, they were fathers, they were farmers, they were healers, they were teachers. They came not just to pass through, but to stay here, to build, to become one with the land. Today, when scientists study our DNA, they find two major ancestral roots for the people of India. Modern genetic studies, they have unveiled a profound truth about India's heritage. Nearly all Indians today descend from two ancient, genetically distinct populations: ancestral South Indians and ancestral North Indians. ASI, ANI. The ASI are unique to the subcontinent, showing no close genetic ties to population outside India, while the ANI, it shared ancestry with the groups from Eurasia. These two groups began intermixing between 1900 and 4000 years ago, leading to the diverse, interconnected tapestry of Indian society we see today. This blending transcends regional, linguistic, and caste divisions, highlighting a shared origin that unites us all. Recognizing this common ancestry, we can serve as a powerful, it can serve as a reminder that our differences are superficial compared to the deep bonds that connects us as one people. In embracing this unity, we honor the rich mosaic of our past and strengthen the foundation for a harmonious future. The ancestral North Indians, ANI ancestry, it is a result of the fusion between the Indus Valley civilization, we call it as IVC, Indus Valley civilization populations, and Indo-European speaking pastoralists from the Eurasian steppe, often associated with the Emania culture. This genetic influx is estimated to have occurred between 2000 and 1500 BC. Between this time, it contributes significantly to the genetic makeup of North Indian populations. The AMI component is closely related to Middle Easterns and the Central Asians and Europeans. It reflects the migratory patterns into the subcontinent during the Bronze Age. The ancestral South Indians, ASI, it represents the earliest inhabitants of the subcontinents with the genetic link to groups like the Andamanis. It indicates that a deep rooted presence in South Asia. This admixture occurred over millennia, particularly during the Neolithic period, leading to the formation of the ASI lineage, which is predominantly found in southern India today. We are not just one or the other. We are a beautiful blend. This mixing of blood and this mixing of culture, it happened almost 200 generations ago. People fell in love, they married, they had children, and slowly, they created the rich Indian population we see today. So let us pause and think. When we are looking at each other, when we see someone from another state, another religion, another background, we are not looking at a stranger. We are looking at someone who shares our ancestry. Then let's see the Max Muller's his theory regarding this genetic science. Max Muller was a 19th century German philologist and Orientalist. He played a pivotal role in formulating the Aryan invasion theory (AIT), which posited that a group of Indo-European speaking people, they termed as Aryans, they migrated into the Indian subcontinent around 1500 BCE. According to this theory, these Aryans overran the existing Dravidian civilization, are leading to significant cultural and linguistic shifts in the region. Muller's theory suggested that the Aryans introduced the Vedic culture and Sanskrit language, laying the foundation for what became known as Hindu civilization. But the truth lies in our DNA. The Aryans might not have conquered. Instead, they mixed with the people who were already living in India. We are all a part of the same story. Take for example, the Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's oldest urban societies. For years, people believed that the people of the Indus Valley were either Aryans or maybe Dravidians. But recent genetic studies, it shows us a different reality. The people of the Indus Valley, they were a mixture of many different people. They were not just Aryans, they were not just Dravidians, but they were the result of interaction between Iranian farmers and South Asian hunter-gatherers. Just as in our daily lives, where we blend different ingredients to make a delicious food, the people of the Indus Valley blended their different cultures, ideas, and the ways of life to create something uniquely Indian. In 2018, a groundbreaking study by scientists like Narasimhan, they looked at the DNA of 523 ancient individuals from places like Pakistan, Iran, and Kazakhstan. What they found was astonishing. After 2000 BCE, the genetic makeup of Indian began to change. People with steppe ancestry, the kind of people from the region north of the Black Sea, they came to India not to conquer, but to join the society already here. And this was not a violent invasion, as history once suggested, like invasion, but it was not. It was a peaceful exchange and peaceful integration. These newcomers didn't come to destroy the people of the Indus Valley. They became a part of these people. They married and they lived alongside one another. But that's not all. The people of the Indus Valley, the ones who came before here already, they had a rich genetic mix. About 42% of their DNA was from ancient South Indians, people who were living in the southern parts of India for thousands of years. The rest of their ancestry came from Iranian ancestors who brought with them farming techniques, language, and new ideas. This genetic connection, it shows us that India was always a place for integration, cooperation, and mutual respect. We were never separated by race, or we were never separated by skin color or geography, but always intertwined by our shared history. When you look at India today, you can see the same spirit of unity in every part of our country, in the way we speak, in the way we live, in the food we eat, and in the rituals we follow. We can see some type of commonality among us, whether you live in North India or in South India, whether you speak Hindi or Tamil or Telugu, whether you celebrate Diwali or Pongal. We are all part of this long and glorious tradition of blending different cultures and different histories. The language we speak today, the agriculture we practice, the festivals we celebrate, they all have roots in the ancient melting pot of different people coming together. Think about our own lives. We may have ancestors from different parts of India or even from different countries. But when we sit at the dinner table, when we share a story with our friends, or when we celebrate a festival, or when we are taking part in this great tradition of unity, our DNA, like us, or like mine, it carries the legacy of centuries of interwoven cultures, languages, and tradition. Our ancestors didn't fight each other. They worked together. They worked together to create something far stronger than the sum of their parts. That is the true history of India, not a history of division or not a history of conquest, but one of mixing, cooperation, and mutual growth. India's greatness doesn't come from purity, but from diversity. It comes from the fact that we as people, we have always found ways to live together despite our differences. So the next time we hear someone speak about the division between us, let's remember, we are not divided by our bloodlines, or we are not divided by our skin colors. We are united by them. We are united by them. Every strand of our DNA tells the story of a people who were never meant to be separate. We were always meant to come together, to learn from each other, and to grow as one. Let us embrace our shared history, not as a source of division, but as a foundation for our future. We have always been stronger together, and we always will be. So let's move forward in that way, hand in hand, as united India. So when we dig deeper into the story of our ancestry, we can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from the DNA. We can learn a lot from the DNA passed down through generations. The DNA from our mothers called mitochondrial DNA. It has a special story to tell. It's fascinating because it reveals the roots of Indian society, especially through tribal communities. Tribal communities that still live in remote areas today in India. A study of 528 individuals found that these tribal groups carry a genetic marker known as haplogroup M. This marker is like a signature of India's ancient past, showing that women, as the carriers of mitochondrial DNA, women have always been at the core of the Indian genetic identity. These maternal lineages have kept their roots strong within the land, passing down the same genetic traits from mother to child across countless generations. It suggests that the foundation of India's population has been deeply local, primarily influenced by the generations of women who raised and shaped their communities. However, when we look at the DNA passed from fathers to their children, it's called Y DNA. we see something different. The Y-DNA, it tells a story of migration and influence from outside India. For instance, in groups like the Brahmins and Rajputs, there is a noticeable presence. We can see there is a noticeable presence of a genetic marker known as haplogroup Q. Brahmins and Rajputs DNA, it is linked to European ancestry, particularly from regions like Eastern Europe and the vast steppes of Central Asia. This tells us that men, through their paternal lineages, brought in new genetic material from other parts of the world. These migrations, which likely occurred thousands of years ago, it helped shape the genetic makeup of the upper caste groups, adding foreign influences to India's already rich genetic history. What makes this so interesting is the contrast between the mitochondrial DNA, which shows a deeply rooted local ancestry in women, mitochondrial DNA from women, and the Y-DNA, which points to external influences brought in by men, DNA from father. It is a reminder of how India's population has always been shaped by a mix of indigenous and external elements. While our local women provided the core genetic foundation, men brought new genes contributing to the diverse population we see it today. This blend of ancient roots and external influences, it reflects the history of India, a land of cultural exchanges, a land of migrations, and a land of adaptations. So, as we think about this, it is clear that both the male and female lineages, they have played crucial roles in shaping India's genetics. The local roots from mothers combined with the influence of men bringing new genes from different regions, it tells us a fascinating story of unity and diversity. This genetic diversity, it present in every corner of India. It reflects a long history of migration, adaptation, and blending of cultures. It creating the rich, varied society we know it today. Understanding this, it gives us a deeper connection to our past, and it helps us appreciate the complexity of who we are as a people. Then, more than 2000 years ago, people across Indian subcontinent, they married freely without the restrictions imposed by the caste system. Communities, families, and individuals, they were free to form relationships and build connections with those they chose without considering their caste. This was a time of much greater social fluidity and openness. However, over time, things began to change. The establishment of the caste system, significantly influenced genetic diversity in India. Prior to its rigid implementation, there was considerable interbreeding among population. However, around 1600 years ago, during the Gupta period, strict endogamy, marriage within one's own group, it became prevalent, leading to reduced genetic mixing. This shift resulted in distinct genetic patterns among castes, with Dalits and tribal groups maintaining closer genetic ties due to their shared ancestry and continued intermarriage. This shift had a profound effect on the genetic and social makeup of communities. Endogamy, by limiting marriage options to people within the same caste, that is the endogamy. Endogamy created what scientists call a population bottleneck. This means that over a time, only a small number of individuals genetically related, they were able to pass down their traits and genes. It's like a narrow funnel where fewer and fewer people's genetic material it makes its way into future generations. This practice of marrying only within one's caste, it restricted the mixing of genetic traits and led to a lack of diversity in certain communities. Let's take a real life example to understand this example. The business community called Gupta in Andhra Pradesh. These people number about 5 million, yet they have a striking genetic history that goes back to 2000 years. The genetic data shows that they have a mutation affecting their muscle function, specifically causing paralysis during surgery. This mutation is a direct result of generations of strict endogamy because this group only married within themselves. They passed down certain genetic traits that may have otherwise been diluted or avoided through more diverse marriages. This example gives us an important lesson. It shows that the caste system, with all its restrictions, the caste system not based on biology or natural law. It is a social construct, a set of rules we created over time, not something that is built into our very DNA. The genetic mutation seen in this business community, it is a proof that these social practices can shape us in a ways that biology never could. If you were to step back and look at this through a biological lens, we would see that caste divisions have done more harm than good to our collective health and well-being. What does this teach us about our present day? It reminds us that our social structures, such as caste, they do not reflect any inherent differences between people. Instead, they are a result of social practices and decisions that have been passed down over time. We must recognize that these practices they limit our potential for growth, potential for connections, and potential for understanding. Just as we can see that genetic traits like the mutation in the some communities came from a limited gene pool. We can also see that social barriers like caste keep us from experiencing the full richness of human diversity. By challenging these old social rules, by challenging these social norms, we can embrace a more inclusive approach. We can unlock a future where we are united, not divided by the lines drawn by history. India's tribes, they are often misunderstood or they are often overlooked. They are far from being backward. In reality, they represent the earliest waves of human migration into the Indian subcontinent. These communities, they are a living testament to the resilience and endurance of our ancestors and their contributions to the nation's history and culture. They are immeasurable. Tribals in India, they comprise about 8.08% of India's population. The tribes of India, they can speak over 750 dialects, each carrying its own unique story and own history and own wisdom. These dialects belong to three major linguistic groups: Austro-Asiatic, Dravidian, and Tibeto-Burman. Each of these groups holds clues to the migrations and the interactions that shaped the Indian subcontinent over millennia. Among these Austro-Asiatic speaking tribes, such as the Khasis, Mundas, and Santals, they are especially significant because studies suggest that these tribes are some of India's earliest settlers, having arrived here around 55,000 years ago, long before other groups arrived here. In fact, they arrived about 15,000 years earlier than many of other populations that followed. The significance of this cannot be overstated. These tribes are the living links to a distant past. Their ancestors, they are having experienced the world in ways that modern societies can only begin to understand. Their genes share remarkable similarities with tribes from Southeast Asia, including those in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Myanmar. They indicate that they not only represent the first human arrivals in India, but also that the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia, they share a deep interconnected history. This ancient connection is not just seen in genetic markers, but also in the ways of life these tribes maintain. Living in remote rural areas, they have preserved sustainable lifestyles that reflect their deep knowledge of nature, agriculture, and the environment. The Khasis of Meghalaya, they have a matrilineal society where inheritance and family lineage are passed through the mother's side. A practice that is rare and thought to be a survival mechanism. The Buddhas, known for their traditional farming practices, they continue to manage their lands with techniques passed down through generations long before the rise of modern agricultural methods. These tribes, they maintain a delicate balance with the environment, showing that human beings can live in harmony with nature, something that modern societies often struggle with in the face of the industrialization and climate change. The lifestyle of these tribes, it holds many lessons. It holds many lessons for us today. Their deep respect for nature, their community-based living, and their wisdom about sustainable practices. They are all qualities that the modern world could learn from. In our race, in our race towards development, we often overlook the rich practical knowledge that these communities possess. The tribal wisdom of India, it passed down over thousands of years. This wisdom teaches us that the value of patience, the value of resilience, and the value of living in balance with the earth. It reminds us that developing is not just about material progress, but it is about finding a harmonious relationship with our environment and each other. These tribes, far from being relics of the past, these tribes are our oldest and most authentic teachers. By understanding their history and embracing their way of life, we not only honor their contribution to our shared heritage, but also we gain insights. We gain insights that can help guide us towards a more sustainable and inclusive future. Their stories and their practices, it should be celebrated, for they are the threads that bind the rich culture tapestry of India together, demonstrating that true progress, it comes from respecting our roots while adapting this for the future. So, India is rich. India is rich and diverse history. It is a profound reminder of how technological advancements and cultural exchanges transcended regional boundaries long before the modern era. If we take Kurumanal in Tamil Nadu as an example, over 2000 years ago, people there were already skilled. They were skilled in farming, iron smelting, and creating intricate pottery. This was not an isolated skill, but part of a broader interconnected network of technological advancement. The people of Kodumanal, they didn't just stop at agriculture. They mastered the art of iron smelting. It is a technology that was crucial for the development of societies across the subcontinent. What is truly fascinating here is that this technology wasn't limited to the south alone. Iron tools have been found from Vidarbha in central India to Tamil Nadu, proving that these innovations were shared across vast distances, connecting people, connecting people from different regions in ways we often overlook today. Even more intriguing is the role of the Agarias, a group of iron smelters who, despite having no common religion or language, they were united by a singular skill, the smelting of iron. This shared ability to work with iron, it created a bond that transcended the differences in culture, differences in languages, and differences in belief systems. The Agarias are a perfect example of how people from different walks of life came together over common knowledge. This collaboration between regions, despite the geographical and cultural differences, it is a clear indication that our ancestors, they valued the exchange of knowledge over any form of division. Their ability to share and spread such technologies, it shows us how India's past was deeply rooted in unity, cooperation, and shared purpose. North or South, North India, South India, with all their distinct identities, both North India and South India once worked hand in hand to progress technologically and culturally. This spirit of collaboration and cultural exchange, it extended far beyond the subcontinent. If we see in Mitanni kingdom, if you see the Mitanni kingdom, it is a region in Mesopotamian area, present day Syria. The ruling class spoke Vedic Sanskrit, a language deeply rooted in the Indian subcontinent. This connection between India and the Western world, it illustrates how India's rituals and knowledge were not confined by the geographical limitations of the time. The fact that the rulers of Mitanni, they used a language, Sanskrit language, that originated in India, it tells us that the ties between India and West Asia, they were once far stronger than we often realize. These ancient connections, it shows us that civilizations once shared more than just trade goods. They shared beliefs, they shared practices, they shared knowledge system, enriching each other in profound ways. Looking back at these historical examples, it becomes clear that cultural exchange and technological collaboration, they have always been key to human progress. Our ancestors didn't see borders as barriers, but they have seen as opportunities for connection. They worked together, they shared knowledge, and they helped each other to grow. This is a powerful lesson for us today. Just as ancient people from different regions came together to advance their societies, we too can. We too can unite across religions, across cultures, across languages and borders to face the challenges of our time. Our shared human heritage, it teaches us that progress happens when we work together, learn from each other, and celebrate the diversity that makes us stronger. So, if you see the tribes of the Andaman Islands, particularly the Jarawa and Wonge, they offer, those tribal groups, they offer a glimpse into the distant past of human migration. The tribes of the Andaman Islands, particularly the Jarvas and the Wonge, they offer us a glimpses into the distant past of human migration. These tribes are often described as living fossils, not because they are from ancient times, but because their genetics, they are like a preserved link. They are like a preserved link to an earlier chapter of our human history. When we look at their DNA, we find that it differs by more than 30% 13% from the genes of mainland Indians. This difference is a strong indication that the Java and the Onge, they have been isolated for thousands of years, developing their own unique traits that set them apart. However, what's truly fascinating is that some tribes are from Northeast India, they share certain genetic markers with these Andaman tribes. This suggests that India, especially its northeastern regions, India acted as a crucial point of migration. It wasn't just a land where people settled, but a starting point for journeys that led to Southeast Asia. The fact that these Andaman tribes are not isolated, but instead they connected to wider migration patterns, challenges the way we think about human history. For years, many believed that these tribes were cut off from the world, living unchanged for millennia. But their DNA tells a different story. They are not stuck in time, but are part of a rich, dynamic history of human movement and human connection. The Andaman Islands, with their lush forests and remote beaches, they have long been home to tribes who have adapted to their environment in unique ways. They live with a deep understanding of nature and survival, often in ways that mainland populations no longer do. This example of the Andaman tribes, it teaches us a valuable lesson. The history of human migration is not a straightforward journey from one place to another, but it was a complex web of connections that span across continents, that span across millennia. The genes of the Andaman tribes, it shows us how human moved and adapted in responses to their surroundings, preserving certain traits that remain with them to this day. Their way of life, rooted in ancient past, their way of life is an inspiration for us to appreciate the richness of human diversity and the long journey that has brought us all together to this planet. Just as the Andaman tribes holds a link to the ancient human past, we too are part of that ongoing journey, constantly evolving and connecting with each other in ways that are sometimes hidden beneath the surface, but always present in the shared history of our genes and our cultures. So, India's diversity is one of its greatest strengths. It takes to be open with a rich blend of cultures, languages, traditions, and practices. This diversity is something we all celebrate and cherish as it shapes our identities and enriches our lives. The concept of marrying within a close-knit group, though seemingly harmless on the surface, but it can inadvertently limit the genetic diversity of that group. Over generations, this limited gene pool, it can lead to the accumulation of genetic mutations, which can cause serious health problems for the future generation. If we take the example of a condition known as hydatidiform mole, a rare but serious pregnancy disorder. In India, this condition affects 1 in every 83 to 500 pregnancies, a striking contrast to the Western world, where it is found in just 1 in 1000 pregnancies. This significant difference is linked to a specific gene mutation, LRP7, NLRP7, which is more common in population where marriages are restricted within the same caste or within the same community. This mutation, which has accumulated over generations in these isolated genetic pools, it contributes to the higher instance of identifiable in certain Indian population. The situation illustrates how cultural practices, while preserving traditions, but these practices can also increase the risk of inheriting harmful genetic traits. Another example is Fanconi anemia, a serious genetic disorder that affects the body's ability to repair DNA. This condition is linked to a mutation in the FANCL gene. In populations where endogamy is prevalent, the risk of inheriting this gene variant is higher, leading to an increased incidence of this disorder in these communities. Fanconi anemia is a life-threatening condition, and those affected by it, they face a lifetime of challenges, including an increased risk of cancers and organ failures. Once again, this higher incidence is not random, but it is a direct result of the genetic isolation caused by strict caste-based marriages. What these examples highlight is the hidden and often overlooked side of endogamy. While it is a practice that has been passed down for generations, it meant to preserve the integrity of cultural identities and family lineages. It also limits the genetic exchange between different communities. As a result, harmful mutations that might otherwise have been diluted in a broader genetic pool, it becomes concentrated within the isolated population, leading to a higher frequency of genetic disorders. So, it's important to note that genetic isolation is not just a matter of biology. It is also a reflection of societal norms and practices that have persisted over centuries. These norms, though deeply embedded in our culture, they need to be examined through the lens of science and lens of health. We must recognize that while our traditions are valuable and they provide us with a sense of belonging, they also require adaptation in the face of modern knowledge and understanding. In today's world, where mobility and migration are more common than ever before, there is an increasing opportunity. There is an increasing opportunity to mix with and learn from other communities. This creates an opportunity for greater genetic diversity, which can help reduce the risk of inherited diseases. As we embrace our cultural heritage, we must also embrace the importance of genetic diversity for the health of future generations. This is not about rejecting our traditions, but this is about understanding that in a world that is rapidly changing, we must find ways to balance our cultural practices with the need for genetic diversity. In fact, when we look at many societies around the world, we see that open marriages and mixing of cultures and genetic backgrounds, they often result in healthier populations. By learning to embrace not just the diversity of culture, but also the diversity of genetics, we can ensure that our future generations are not only rich in heritage, but also they are stronger, they are healthier, and they are more resilient. Ultimately, our traditions and practices should evolve with the times. While we continue to honor our history, we must also be open to new ways of thinking, ways that will benefit our people and our society as a whole. We can preserve our identities while also ensuring that we move forward in a way that maximizes the health and well-being of who live in this great land of ours. By doing so, we can create a future where both our culture and our health, they can thrive together. As we come to the end of the journey of understanding, it's essential to take a step back and reflect on the profound truth that has emerged. Aryans and Dravidians, they are not enemies. As history and myths, they have sometimes suggested they are not enemies. They are in fact part of the same family, woven together by deep shared genetic roots that span centuries. The difference is we often see between North and South India, they are not biological, but they are historical, shaped by centuries of societal evolution, political power struggles, and cultural narratives. Yet, underneath all these layers, we are fundamentally connected. We share a common ancestry, a rich heritage that flows through every region, every state, and every community. We must remember that no group, no community is pure. We are all, in essence, a mixture of different influences and different histories. Whether in the north or in the south, the east or the west, we are all tied to each other through the generations of migration, generations of settlements, and generations of interactions. Just as a river doesn't flow with only one source, but gathers strength from tributaries, so too is our identity. It is formed by diverse influences. This diversity is not a sign of weakness. It is in fact our greatest strength. Think of the way a garden thrives with the many different kinds of flowers, or how the harmony of a symphony is shaped by the blend of different instruments. So in the same way, each one of us, whether we come from a small village or a bustling city, whether we speak Tamil, Hindi, Telugu, Bengali, or our ancestors lived on the banks of the Ganges or in the coastal towns of Kerala, it contributes to the vibrant fabric of India, wherever they come from, whatever the language they speak. The caste system, it often cited as a cause of division. It is not something born out of biology. It is a historical construct that was created and perpetuated over time. It has no biological basis. It is a product of society's evolution and the power structures that have shaped our history. We must remind ourselves that the caste system, while still having an impact in some parts of society today, or many parts of our society today, it does not define who we are at a genetic or spiritual level. It is a construct that we can and we must move beyond. Our diversity is not something to be feared or resented. It is what makes us unique. It is what makes India one of the most powerful and remarkable places in the world. Our languages, our traditions, our rituals, our festivals, our customs, these are the gifts of our ancestors. But these gifts don't exist in isolation. They exist side by side with the languages, traditions, and cultures of others, enriching one another. So we have to accept all the religions, all the diversities, and it is this richness that strengthens us. The time has come to stop dividing ourselves based on myths, based on religions, or based on outdated ideas. It is time to look to the truth and recognize that we are one. We must teach our children to be proud of their own language and tradition. But also we have to embrace the beauty of others. We must encourage them to understand that their DNA does not confine them to one identity, but it connects them to all identity. Their heritage is not a prison, but a bridge to understanding and unity. They must know that India is not shaped by one single river, but by many rivers. Each river is unique, yet all flowing together into the vast ocean of our collective identity. When we view ourselves through these lenses, we begin to see that our differences are not something to fight over, but something to celebrate. Something to celebrate. The beauty of India lies in its complexity, its variety, and the way all its parts come together. The north with the south. They may have distinct cultures and distinct traditions, but they are two sides of the same coin. Our differences are not barriers. They are the threads that weave the fabric of our nation. Let's move forward, united in our shared history, our shared struggles, and our shared hopes. Let's embrace the truth that despite the many rivers that flow through this land, they are all flowing to the one ocean. And in that ocean, we are all one. Let us raise our children to know this truth, to love their heritage, and to respect the heritage of others. Let us guide our children to see that our diversity is not something to be feared, but something to be proud of. For it is what makes us who we are, India, a land of many rivers flowing together in harmony. Thank you.